Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Burger. I'm Caroline Romo, and I am here with the folks from USA Beef Packing and New Mexico's Best, Joe Madrid and Nayely Madrid. Thank you guys so much for hosting me, for letting me see your place, and for agreeing to be on the podcast.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, will you guys start off and just kind of introduce yourselves and then talk about the business? But first, tell me about yourself, Joe.
Well, my name is Joe Madrid. I'm the owner of USA Beef Packing. We started the business about 10 years ago, but it all really started back when my father was still alive. He used to work for a major company, which was called Wilsey Foods, and then moved from California to El Paso and worked for John Morrell, which is Peyton Meats. Just started really young, dealing this with my father. When they shut down the John Morrell company there in El Paso, that company was pretty large. They had about 1,000 employees plus, and they ended up shutting down. And that's when my father decided to work on his own and opened up an equipment business to sell meat processing equipment. And so that's how it all really started. Started very young working with my father. Took over when I was like 18 years old, and pretty much never looked back. Just really dug into the meat equipment business.
And then came Nayely, right?
Yes. Joe's third daughter. He has 4 daughters, and I'm the third. I began working at USA Beef Packing in 2020. So during COVID, it was like second nature. I started as an office assistant and moved up to office manager, and really like it.
That's perfect. And we love the family aspect of the beef industry, right? It always comes down to family, and a family business is really special, right? To have a place to go work for dad.
Yes.
And we always like to joke there's good days and bad days working for family, right?
That is right.
That's right.
That's perfect. Well, tell us about your operation and how it fits into the beef supply chain.
USA Beef Packing is a USDA-inspected slaughter and processing facility. We're an essential business in getting beef from ranch to table in New Mexico.
Absolutely. And we've gone through it, right? I got to see all of it. So like you said, it's from gate to plate or from hoof to plate. Tell me, maybe tell me about how it came from equipment to now a packing plant too.
Yeah, so for about 35 years, I really did a lot of equipment, international sales and national sales. We used to cater to big businesses like National Beef, Tyson Beef. There in El Paso was a big Tyson plant that we used to cater to, did a lot of service for, 20 plus years just at that plant. In total, I have about over 300 plants that I've probably done business with in one way or another, from all the way from equipment service to consultation, a lot of consulting, just got a lot of experience out of that. And up to about 10 years ago, a lot of traveling back then that I was kind of tired of traveling so much. So really didn't get to see the girls grow up, just working a lot. And I told my wife, you know what, there's a little plant in Roswell that's for sale. And I said, I'm planning to maybe, start trying to do something for ourselves. And we've always helped other companies grow. I said, maybe we can try it out and try our own thing. And so 10 years later, here we are, still trying to make it happen.
Yeah, adapting and changing and growing. I know I thought it was neat to see when you're walking through how, parts of the floor, you said, well, this used to be the room, right?
Yes.
And now it's twice as big, 3 times as big.
Yeah. Yeah. Every time you knock an animal, like slaughter an animal, there's 100 different things you can do. It's just, and that's where it takes you just to different avenues and different kinds of businesses that you never even think you're going to end up doing, and then a year or two later, you're actually doing it, Now we're in like pet food and to, cooked foods. It just really, there's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to learn how much there is to that, right? You're a processor and all of these other avenues of how to get the product on a plate, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
What role does a packing plant play in getting New Mexico beef from producers to consumers?
At USA Beef Packing, we offer multiple services. One of our biggest programs is ranch to institutional markets through the New Mexico Grown program. So we're a New Mexico Grown approved supplier, and we source directly from the rancher or sale barns to provide meat to senior centers, school districts, and food banks. Another service we offer is custom processing for individual owners of cattle. And we do co-packing and private labeling. That's mostly for small businesses that want to go out to market with their own products. And we also do international exporting to Mexico and China, which has recently been a big project for us.
Well, and it's important to remember that the beef industry or the beef supply chain goes international, right? When we get to enjoy New Mexico beef, we get to enjoy American beef here, but it's also sometimes a specialty in other countries, and people are really craving that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's really interesting.
The quality that USA has to offer, New Mexico, along with the rest of the country, is a very high quality.
Yeah.
So that's
absolutely
very desired.
Yeah, we work with the U.S. Meat Export Federation sometimes, and they always present to us what their areas of focus are. And there's even a small country in Africa that has a couple really fine dining restaurants for USA prime beef, and it's really important for people to get their American beef in this country in Africa, and it's really neat to see the work they do there. But yeah, we know we love American beef, we know we love prime beef, we know all those things, but it's also known around the world.
It is.
Yeah,
it really is.
What do you think is the most rewarding part of your work?
To me, the most rewarding part is really being able to work with family and, getting out there with the day-to-day operations with the employees and really, make something happen that wasn't there before. I think is very rewarding.
Absolutely. And that people focus.
Yes.
You work with good people. It makes life fun, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
What about for you?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This episode of Behind the Burger is brought to you by the New Mexico Beef Council. At NMBC, we're all about supporting New Mexico's ranchers and bringing the story of beef to life, from pasture to your plate. If you're enjoying these conversations, be sure to follow us on social media to keep the journey going. You'll find us on Instagram and TikTok at NMBeef and on Facebook at NM Beef Council. We're sharing ranch life, beef tips, recipes, and the people behind the plate. Come be part of the story.
The most rewarding part is the growth. I've been here for 6 years, and since then we've opened maybe 3 or 4 new product lines, and we continue opening new product lines. So that's just a lot of fun to look back and see the growth.
Absolutely. And see that something really, true in front of your face that you could be proud of, right?
Exactly.
Something you've created.
Yes.
And you've done. That's great. How does New Mexico's geography, scale, or supply impact the way you guys operate?
Here in New Mexico, specifically in Roswell, we're surrounded by a large amount of ranchers and dairy farmers. So we're able to supply both high quality and commercial beef. So any range of beef that the customer's looking for, we're able to supply it all locally sourced here.
Oh yeah, Eastern New Mexico has a plethora of cattle, right?
Mm-hmm.
That works out well. And I guess since you guys I mean, does the hot weather, does drought, does any of that ever impact you guys? Or maybe it just impacts cattle numbers and your ability to source cattle? How does a drought impact you?
I do think that the drought impacts us, and which is why we have to turn to value-added items and fully cooked items, just because it opens our avenues for different processing and still having something to do, even if we're not slaughtering as many head, we're still able to process into multiple different items.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one of the biggest challenges you face in your operation today?
Well, there's quite a bit of them. At the beginning, it was always the employee side, getting people that know the business, or you train them to do the business. It's a very skilled labor, especially, when it comes to the boning and cutting side of it. That's always been very challenging, opening the markets, looking for the niche markets, because that's what you got to find, are niche markets to survive in this kind of business. The big companies pretty much control most of it. So we try to do what they don't do. And so, we try finding those niche markets, and that's always challenging, but also very rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you kind of overcome that challenge.
Yeah.
Do you have an answer for that too?
Biggest challenges I face in the operation would probably be all the regulating entities. We just have to be ready for them whenever they show up. Sometimes we have random inspections. We have the USDA inspector. We have the FDA inspection. We have the Environmental Protection Agency. We have packers and stockyards. It's a constant now state inspection, which we're excited for. It's a good challenge. It's nothing bad, but we just have to be ready at any time for them to just show up and do an audit or do a walkthrough.
And also like the bigger companies, distribution companies, where even all those certifications that my daughter's talking about, you already have, they come up with their own besides the ones that you already have. So you really have to be, it's a big challenge to try to get those contracts, because they have their own certifications as well that you have to deal with. Sometimes they're monthly, sometimes they could be twice a year, yearly, but they're always there.
Absolutely. Well, and I try and use that in conversation when I'm talking to consumers. And, the goal is we have consumers kind of listening to this podcast as well, is that those challenges, those inspections that are so rigid is a way for a consumer to feel really confident in the product they're getting.
Yes.
Right? 100% clean. It's very tested. It's very inspected.
That is correct.
Right? If I can, you guys know, because every day they could show up and inspect. And you have USDA inspectors every day. They are they inspecting every summer.
We cannot produce not a pound of beef if the inspector's not on site.
Yeah. And so to me, that's a neat way, or an interesting way to tell the story of, I believe in the safety of our food system because of the extra effort that you all have to go through, the extra cost you have to put in to, follow these regulations. And it gives me confidence, or it's a way to give us confidence that we're eating a very safe product. I understand it's a challenge, and I appreciate the efforts you guys go through to get those inspections, so that it gives us that extra level of confidence when we talk to a consumer of, these are the steps that were taken to make sure the product is safe.
Exactly.
And I would likely trust a lot of the system in general. I work for, the beef industry and all of that, and we have these certifications that can give us confidence, or give a consumer confidence.
Absolutely.
Can you walk us through how animal care, food safety, and quality are handled?
Of course. So when you bring your cattle to us, me or Isabel will receive you in the front office, and that's where the traceability begins in our plant in our system. You would fill out your order forms, and we open a lot in our system that's assigned to that date, your name, the amount of cattle you brought, all of your information goes in that lot. And so then you would go outside, you would unload your animal with an animal handler. And of course, we have our best practices operating procedures for humane animal handling. We're a non-cattle prod facility where we only use flags or the rattle paddles. They always have food and water and bedding while they're at the facility. And then once it becomes the next day, ready for slaughter, that's when we assign each animal an identification number, and that ties directly into the lot, into our traceability system. We have an internal traceability system that tracks from start to finish the weights and the final production. And of course, every step of the way, we have trained personnel at their own station. So we have a food safety and quality control department. We have our butchers, our processors, packagers. We have the sanitation crew that comes after processing and slaughter. We have our maintenance crew. We have our shipping and receiving team. And that's all overseen by our USDA in-house inspector daily.
Yeah, so a ton, right? The short answer is everything. Everything goes into making sure the animals are comfortable through the process, making sure things are safe, making sure your employees are safe.
Yes.
It's very detailed, so
yes.
I appreciate that. What's one thing people don't realize about beef processing in New Mexico or even just your business?
That I feel that they don't know pretty much about us is kind of like how much we've grown and the capacity we're at. Right now, we're at about 100 head a day facility, but even that is not a big number. But if you put it in perspective of really cattle and money amount and all that, it's quite a bit. I feel we're enough right now to be able to supply like the whole school lunch program throughout the state. The numbers work for that. It's 100 head doesn't sound like a lot, but it is quite a bit. And I think that's one of the perceptions sometimes that people don't know here in the state that, everybody always thinks it's, pretty much a smaller operation where you kill 10, 15, 20 head a week, when 100 head a day is quite a bit. So to fill all that in, it's, you got to be very diverse and try to work on a lot of different contracts at the same time just to try to hit the numbers. So I think that's something that I don't think most of New Mexico really realizes that, we can handle up to that capacity.
Yeah, so if a producer is listening to the podcast, and you kind of explain the process, so I think I understand the answer, but I could be wrong. If a producer is listening and they have animals that need a destination, they can come to you, right? You're open for new customers.
That is correct.
Because you're not at capacity. 100 is your capacity.
100 a day is our capacity, correct.
Okay. So as a producer, they could bring finished cattle to you.
Yes.
And be part of your contracts.
Yes. Right now, we're running our school lunch program. That's really been very, very good for, I believe, the state and for us as well. But even at that, we're only running probably at about our 25% of our capacity. So we're, you still got to fill in. Right now, we also slaughter we do a lot of halal slaughter for California. Most of everything going for the Muslim community through California comes through us. And then we're about to, get into another bison contract, which is an AMS program, which is through the USDA. It's a government program. And, for a while we did about 4 years in a row, we did quite a bit of bison, and they're wanting us to come back and do some more for the government. So we're looking into firing that up probably in April.
Yeah, and one of those contracts you mentioned too on the school lunches. So it's New Mexico grown, right? It's a state-funded initiative to get New Mexico products, whether it be beef, whether it be produce, right? New Mexico products into New Mexico schools, right? And each school can maybe apply for the grant, and then they come to someone like you and say, "Hey, we need to fill these orders," right?
Exactly.
Is that kind of the gist of it? So,
Yes.
So tell us more about the school lunches, and maybe even go into. I think my favorite thing that you've told me about is the steak fingers, but maybe because I got to try them. But yeah, tell us more about the school lunch program, or the school kind of cafeteria programs.
So about 2 years ago, we began fully cooking. And my background, or what I really like to do, is cook and bake. So this was an area that I helped a lot in product development for the stick fingers. I used a very simple recipe that doesn't have any fillers, doesn't have any preservatives. It's 100% beef with breading.
And it's delicious.
And it's delicious. So we're very excited about that. And the schools love it. The kids love it. And it's been a brand new product that has been very successful, and we're very proud of that.
Absolutely, as you should be. And so you guys are in schools throughout the state, right? Tell me, I mean, if you can kind of show the map, or picture the map.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So Gallup, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, Carlsbad, Hobbs, Las Cruces, Artesia, Roswell. And then we have a couple other small ones that I can't really remember.
Oh, no worries.
They're all kind of scattered out around the state.
Yeah, I think that's really, really neat to see that New Mexico beef via, steak fingers and other things are in the schools. That's a really great program. I think the New Mexico Department of Ag we were talking about is who manages that, I think, or promotes it. I think I could be wrong, but I love knowing that there's New Mexico products in our schools. I think New Mexico Department of Ag, the Farmers Market Association, and I'm sure some unnamed people get a lot of credit for the New Mexico grown, or should get the credit. So, sorry for not knowing who exactly is managing it, but we do really appreciate that, and I know that's a big part of your business right now too. Just for the fun of it, because I think it's interesting. Tell us about your other products. You guys have the steak fingers, but what else? What other kind of the cooked products, especially?
We do shredded beef. We can do beef crumbles, which is just cooked ground beef. And another very popular one is the flame broiled beef patties that get ran through Burger King flame broil machine.
Broilers. Mm-hmm.
Burger King flame broilers, where they're just seasoned with salt and pepper and they're fully cooked.
And those are perfect for schools, because a lot of times there's not a lot of time, right? You're feeding mass quantities. And so that's why that cooking process is good.
And also, it is hard for the schools, because when they start from a raw product, it's really on them to get it perfect to a fully cooked stage. And sometimes it's pretty difficult. So us doing it in a mass quantity, let's say we have a contract of 3 different schools, we put them all together to run one big batch, and we have full control with the FSQA people, with just everybody, the whole team, to know that it's perfect. And that's really hard for them to do at the schools.
Oh, absolutely. And that's that food safety, right? Of getting the food to the right temperature when you cook it.
Exactly.
And of course, we want our kids safe, and and there's, limited resources in a school, I'm sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why the grant program.
Yes.
Well, cool. Well, I just think the your end products are really neat and a really interesting story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So, what's something you're excited about right now in your operation, or even in the beef industry? But what's something that gets you excited?
We recently got a grant for turning offal into value-added products. The grant was through the New Mexico Department of Agriculture, and we're very excited about that, because we would be turning something that would have been thrown away into a value-added item. And so it's just exactly what we need, the missing piece in our operation.
Absolutely. And the offal is not, it's not actually spelled the way the way it sounds, right? Offal is it an acronym, or if that's the right word for it, it's basically the waste items, right? So it's things that can't go into the food system, or we don't have a spot for them unless you have further processing or whatever, right? And so that's why you're kind of working on a pet food line, right? Or pet food capabilities and other things. And so that was another grant that happened with the state legislature, right? And the New Mexico Department of Ag is organizing that. So congratulations on that. I know that was all of the processors in the state were able to apply, right?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, we want to thank them very much, because this is really going to be a big game changer for us as well.
Yeah, and previously, from what I understand, some of that stuff was just kind of going to a dump or going somewhere.
That is correct.
And then we're not allowed to do that anymore, right? So they're trying to find other ways. And so I think some people find ways to compost, find ways to make, like you said, those value-added products. So it's really uniquely a unique challenge for what you guys do, right? Not everybody's worried about what they do with these with their waste. Yes. I have a trash man come and get my trash, right? It's just different, right? Perfect. So do you have something that you're excited about too, besides that?
The raw dog food. I would say the raw pet food.
Okay.
Tying into turning offal into value-added products. The raw dog food would be one of those products. And we're finding that there's a very large market for raw dog food. And so that's a perfect item that would come out of that grant.
And we're also thinking of some probably cooked items as well for pet food.
Okay.
Like snack sticks and little items, pet treats.
Yeah.
So we're definitely excited of getting into that as well.
I love that. That's very interesting. Our dogs don't get raw or super high quality dog food, but they do get beef. We did make sure that I work for the beef industry, so we do buy. It's got to be number one ingredient on the label. So our dogs are getting high quality protein. Very cool. What does a good day look like for you guys?
A good day to me is pretty much that the goal we have for the day was actually completed. No breakdowns, equipment, personnel not showing up. Just pretty much if we put a goal and we met it, that's a very good day.
Absolutely. What about for you?
A good day for me is getting all the stuff done on my to-do list.
Yeah, I let me know if you're able to do that, right? We have to make reasonable to-do lists for ourselves, right?
Sometimes things roll over.
Yeah. Always have to have that flexibility for yourself. Tell us about a hard lesson you've learned along the way. I think, and with this question too, one of the things as we were walking through, you were showing me how you've really adapted all of your equipment to make it easy on your employees and use your equipment knowledge and all of that to make it a really state-of-the-art facility. But tell me about maybe a hard lesson along the way.
To me, I think one of the hardest lessons is like an old saying of don't put all those eggs in one basket. That's kind of how I started it, was thinking, I just want to do something simple, mass produce it, and call it a day. And, that's kind of in the perfect world, and it really doesn't work that way. So, at first I was putting everything in just to one thing, and then I learned to diversify, because it cannot work for you, and then what do you do?
Yeah.
And that kind of happened to us at the beginning. It was really hard. So now we're really diverse and, carry it that way. So in case we do have, some things not go right one way, well, we always have a backup.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What about you?
A hard lesson I've learned along the way.
Yeah, what do you think?
I would say do what's hard. Do what's hard. Like, just get the task done.
Absolutely. Yeah, not be afraid of a little hard work, right? Keep and lean into the hard things sometimes. Lean into those challenges, right?
Yes.
That's a good lesson in any part of agriculture or life. I love that. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? Or maybe kind of a
I
theme?
would say this would come from my dad, is not to be complacent and to be open to new ventures. He's been the perfect example of that, moving our life from El Paso to Roswell, and it working out so well. I'm very happy to be here. It's an amazing place to be. The town is very nice. People in agriculture are very nice. They're very receiving. They say hi to you in the grocery store every morning, which you don't get that in big cities. So I would say just to be open to new ventures.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about you? What's a good advice you've followed?
Well, my father's always been a really hard worker, and that's what's gotten us here. So just stay on top of it, work as hard as you can, and things should come your way.
Absolutely. Again, with the hard work, it's important, right? If you want to be successful in life, it is. And then, like you said, Roswell is a really sweet community. I got tons of 2-finger waves as we're driving into town.
Yes.
That's my favorite. I love to get out of the big city and get the waves back and, feel that kindness and that warmth of a small community. Even though Roswell is pretty big, it still has that feel, right? That's really special. So why do you guys do what you do? What makes you keep going, keep trying new things, keep diversifying and adapting?
I would say that it's in our blood. Like my dad said before, it all started with my grandpa. So it's more like a family tradition.
It's important and special, right? It's what an honor to continue that tradition.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you guys would like people to better understand about New Mexico beef or your role as a processing plant in New Mexico?
Well, New Mexico beef comes from people that take the time to do it right. And, perfect example is here in Roswell, starting from feed from the local farmers to the ranch where they get daily care. I bet that's the dedication in that would be a lot and very hard. And then the respect and care that we treat the animals with at USA Beef Packing.
Absolutely. That's absolutely what we hope consumers understand, right? Is that there's so much care involved and effort involved to bring that quality and tasty item on their plate, right?
Correct.
What advice would you give someone interested in working in or supporting this part of the beef industry?
What advice would I give someone? That it is a tough business, but it's very rewarding. It really is. When you convert, something that's alive into just a bunch of delicious items, that's very rewarding.
Absolutely. And we all have to eat, right?
Yes.
And so it impacts everyone what you do, right? Putting food on the plate is a really important part of our livelihood, of our life, right? Well, cool. Well, was there anything that when we said, I had to reschedule on you a couple times and we finally made it down here to Roswell, was there anything that you really wanted to make sure you say on the podcast or something that you wanted to make sure and get across? Was there anything else like that?
I would say I just want everyone to know that we're here. We're in New Mexico. We're in Roswell. We're open for business. We're a phone call away. If anyone wants to take a visit, take a plant tour, we're open to that.
Awesome. Awesome. And you're open for business for ranchers to bring cattle. You're also open for business. You also sell beef, right? They could call you to buy beef, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. By the case.
Perfect. Absolutely by the case. So my last question, my favorite question, what's your favorite way to eat beef?
You can go first.
My favorite way is, well, I've always liked, like everybody else, I guess, you know, the ribeyes and the T-bones and the sirloins. But I also really, really enjoy is a chuck steak. You know, a lot of people just like throwing that in a burger, but I like, you know, a pretty decent thick cut chuck steak with a bone in it. I just really think that's very good and flavorful.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite way?
Growing up, my dad always made carne asadas, which are cookouts. And my favorite cut that he would use is the skirt steak. It was always a marinated skirt steak with a side of a quesadilla and some guac.
Ooh, delicious. Sounds wonderful and sounds even nostalgic, right? Growing up, and you never forget that, right?
Definitely.
Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, I really just want to really thank everybody around here in the community in Roswell. They've always been very, you know, supportive, especially, you know, a lot of the local ranchers, you know, they've been really, really great on trying to support us throughout this whole way. The EDC, the local EDC here in Roswell, since day one, they've been really, really great to us with grants that have come in through the state, grants like the LEDA, the JTIP. You know, I just really want to thank them. Because of them, you know, this has really helped us grow and be successful, because it's not an easy business, and everything helps. Every angle helps. You know, the NMDA with these grants that they've been coming out with, they're very, very, very supportive to help us really look at the growth and the angles of what we need to do to just survive sometimes, you know, and so like these grants that they just came out with, have really, really helped tremendously. Yeah, I just wanted to really thank everybody on that part.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's same with the state legislators. Because of them is why we have the New Mexico Grown grant and everything that they're doing with the new bills that they're trying to put out for supporting New Mexico beef. It's just been amazing support from everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you know, we always want to thank you guys for taking the risk and doing an important job that puts local beef on plates for kids in New Mexico, for families, for everyone. And we're grateful that there's grants and things that will help you, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot.
And I want to thank the New Mexico Beef Council as well.
Oh,
this is a really good podcast that you guys are doing.
We enjoy listening. We're listeners every time.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. Thank you. We love it. We think it's a great thing. I think I said it on one recently, that storytelling is an age-old tradition, right? Mm-hmm. And this is just the modern version, right? Now we just put a camera in front of you and microphones in front of your face that make everybody uncomfortable, myself included. But it's just an important way to try and get the message out, because we want to be the first to tell our stories, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you guys so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for the important role that you play in the beef industry. Thank you for your time today and everything. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Behind the Burger is produced by the New Mexico Beef Council to celebrate the people and stories behind New Mexico beef. Thanks for listening. Follow the show so you never miss an episode, and connect with us on social media for more behind-the-scenes stories and updates. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at NM Beef, and on Facebook at NM Beef Council. We'll see you next time, and until then, beef, it's what's for dinner.